Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of the System podcast with me, Natasha Pinto. Today, our guest is Anastasia. She's an entrepreneur, blogger, Pinterest expert, business coach, and online course creator. Hi, Anastasia.
Hi, Natasha. Thank you for having me here.
Welcome. And I'm really excited to have you on here. I think you've got a really interesting set of expertise and something that haven't had on the podcast yet. So I'm quite keen to ask you all sorts of questions. But my first
Great.
one, which I like to start with for all our guests, is kind of can you take me through your history, your background? Where did you think you were
Mhm.
headed on your career path, and how did you get to where you are now?
Okay, so when I started, it was about 4 years ago. And before that, for about 10 years, I was working in digital marketing, but in a corporate world. I started initially as an editor for an online magazine. And then the magazine itself, it was focused on SEO, on Google SEO specifically. And so over time, I studied and I understood this topic as in a theory. And then I also took a degree in master's degree in marketing. And then I started working as a marketer, actually. But it was always in a corporate world. And so at the time when I was starting my blog, my idea was that I just wanted to replace my income from the corporate job, and that was the whole idea. But I didn't know how soon it would work out. What really helped me it was reading these income reports from successful bloggers at that time, people who already were making consistent income above the, let's say, the full-time income on average. uh, I live in Portugal, so it wasn't too hard to get to the point, to the level where it's above the average income here. And right now, I'm working on my YouTube channel in addition to the blog. So it's already past 4 years later. And the YouTube channel I also started not from the beginning. It was about 1.5 years after I started the blog.
Hey, that's fantastic. And I think you've taken a lot of those steps that lots of people will want to follow in of kind of starting the blog, working until that's
Mhm.
a little bit successful, and then adding different kinds of content to keep it going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereabouts in Portugal do you stay?
We live in Porto area.
Portugal is
Yeah.
my favorite.
Yeah, it's very beautiful. It's a nice city to visit for tourism.
Yeah.
Now that the borders are open and everyone can travel freely, I think the life will, like everything will be alive again, because it was very unusual to see Porto streets empty during the pandemic. But it was at the same time very beautiful, because you could see actually the streets and the buildings, not just the tourists. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's awesome. Now, can you talk a little bit about a comparison of figures? So I've read a few of your blog posts of how you kind of got to different steps on the level of success,
Mm-hmm.
how you got to your first 8,000 a month, and then how you
Right.
make $25,000 in a month, which is
Mm-hmm.
mind blowing. So can you kind of
Right.
take us through how you went from nothing to that
Yeah.
25 and then how you're doing today?
Yeah, I think it's very important for someone who is just starting in this area to have um, realistic expectations, I'd say, because the first year of blogging, in the first few months, it's very typical for most people to be very discouraged, because you don't see any actual income at that time. You just put in a lot of hours, a lot of work, a lot of effort, and if anything grows, it's maybe a little bit your visitors on your site are growing, or even more likely that you're just saying your following on social media might be growing, but you are definitely not getting paid, at least not enough to replace your full-time income. And so in my case, it took me about a year to reach. But again, I have to mention that in different countries, the standards of average income, full-time income are different. So in my case, it was the first time when I received over $1,000. It was actually 1,400, $1,400 basically. It was the first month when Mediavine, it's an ad publishing company, that ad management company, that they accepted my blog. And that was by the end of the first year of blogging. Before that, I already published a few income reports in the first year, but they were always a couple of $100. Maybe the biggest one would be $600. And this was the first time by the end of the first year where I felt that it's heading towards somewhere where I actually dreamed about. And so after this first month, I was very, I would say that I'm a person who takes a lot of risks. So after the very first month, I decided to quit my day job and fully focus on the blog. I wouldn't recommend, unless you are sure, if you have a partner and you're sure that your partner his income will, his or her income will be enough for both of you. I wouldn't say that it was worth quitting my job that quickly after the first income above $1,000. But yeah, in my case, it was just believable. It was possible, so I did it. And at the time, as I said, it was just from Mediavine ads. But if you want to see like the progression, the evolution of all of it, I had to increase this income. I had to add many other traffic sources and many other income sources. In terms of income sources, I added affiliate marketing, and I created my digital products. Initially, it was just ebooks, and then I also created my course, because ebooks are just much faster and easier to create than recording a whole online course. Then I also, when I started YouTube channel, I also started getting more and more sponsorship opportunities. I would say that when you just have a blog, it's harder than if you have also some social media presence, because that's how brands will find you, first through the social media, and then they can also pay for a sponsored post on the blog, but they will first find you on YouTube or maybe on Instagram, something like that.
And I'm sorry, yeah.
No, I just since you asked how it was a progression, I have to mention though that this income reports with $25,000. I even had one with $40,000. It was due to a Black Friday promotion that I made for my own course, and also some affiliate products had also at the same time the Black Friday promotion. And so altogether, it was just 1 month in November of 2020. It was the highest point in my income reports. I'm dreaming to get back to this income level I would say as a baseline, but I would say that on average, if I make the average per year and then divided by 12 months, that would be around 13,000, something like that on average. I think that every blogger, if you keep working consistently, you can reach a certain point, and then it depends on your life circumstances if you can keep up with the speed. Because I had a very good year, 2020. Like I said, I had very high income reports at that time, and then I had a baby. And so I started working fewer hours. I would say that in the first 3 months, it was almost impossible to work. And then I started I'm trying right now, I'm working about 4 hours a day. So it's not full-time working day, but still I'm pretty happy with where I'm at, because for 4-hour working day, it's a very good salary that I'm getting with my online business, I'd say.
Definitely. I think it's really important that you acknowledge and that you point out the fact that you can't rely on just the one income source. You need to work on getting other things, getting sponsored posts, getting stuff like affiliate marketing, creating products that your fans can actually interact with. And I think what that does is that you don't have to rely on just one thing, because as lots of people have found with like the algorithms changing on social media and even on Google, then main source of income suddenly dips or disappears altogether. So I think that's a really smart strategy.
Yeah, it's true, because even in this period of time where in 4 years that I'm blogging, there were periods when Google had a strong update and traffic can really drop very strongly, like 30% up to 50% on some blogs. You can just get unlucky. You don't have to do anything wrong. They can have an update in general in the niche or in the topic of your blog, and that affects many blogs, and they didn't do anything wrong. And so when this happens, obviously your advertising income will also get to the halving point. But at the same time, if you've been building other income streams, in particular, in my case, I found that creating my own products and having an email list helped me go through this algorithm changes, because I didn't rely in those months on advertising income, because I started, let's say, selling my own course, sending emails, because I already had an email list, and an email list is something that no one can take it away from you. Algorithm changes don't affect your email list. So it was great that I could replace partially the income that was dropping because of the algorithm change on Google. But the good news about algorithm changes is that if your site wasn't really spammy, if it was just affected by a general change on in the algorithm, in most cases, it's very much possible that in a few months you will get back to normal traffic levels. Traffic can recover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a good way to kind of recover and get back to where you were, and also smart to not rely on just one thing. A great way to manage any obstacles is to kind of with the punches and think, okay, cool, email marketing, I can do this. Now, I would like to speak to you a little bit more about blogging in particular. So blogging is one of the older, I suppose, siblings of online business. It's been around for quite a while, and there's a lot of people who think that blogging is dead. So do you think it is still possible to make a living from blogging?
I think that we cannot say that it's dead. It's just evolving over time. So it might be different from what it was 10 or 15 years ago. But if we think about, in general, blogging as a market, it's pretty new. If you think in the historical levels, let's say newspapers, they appeared 4 centuries ago. I think maybe in the beginning of 17th century, first newspapers. So nowadays, of course, we are reading less newspapers. We're reading more online. But how many centuries it passed before this point was reached? I think that blogging does have still a lot of time to develop, and it's not in the infancy stage. But I would say that at the same time, there is a lot more demand for information online than it was, let's say 10 years ago, because it's now global. I think that people in America maybe don't realize that many other parts of the world didn't have that easy access to internet. So in other parts of the world, internet is now becoming something that in America it was 10 years ago completely normal to go to internet to find information. And so there are still a lot of markets where you can grow, and also in terms of evolving, initially bloggers I think that they had even fewer opportunities. There was not as much competition among bloggers, but at the same time, there was not enough, I would say, infrastructure in this market. Like, you didn't have this big companies like now. You can join Mediavine, you can join this and that. You can read a lot of income reports. You can see what other people already do or did before you. And when they were just starting, there was not a lot of place to go. They just could apply to Google AdSense, and that's it. And Google AdSense didn't pay much. Compared to even now, Google AdSense is paying more. And if you join networks like Mediavine or AdThrive and many others, you're making 4 or 5 times more than with Google AdSense. But now they exist. Previously, you just didn't have that. There was no that much also ad income, simply because advertisers didn't realize at the time the power of internet yet. There was not enough. Everything is growing, so the market is growing, so the income potential has grown a lot also over the years.
And I think there's a lot to monetize your blog. It's not just, if you talk about this one thing, maybe someone will be interested or they'll want to advertise on your blog. You can go with things like affiliate marketing and that. So that's a fantastic point. And now my next question is, what is one of the biggest mistakes that you see people making with their blogs? Something that you see with people who are just starting out that they can easily avoid?
I think that when, like I said, it's very nice to read some income reports of established bloggers, but sometimes people get confused by these income reports and the strategies that established bloggers use. And so beginners often, by reading these income reports, they think that in the very first month or 2 months, they have to start doing all of these things at once, trying to establish themselves on all the platforms, trying to apply to affiliate networks. But all of this takes time. Just to send one application, it can take you, let's say, 15, 20 minutes to write an email. And so everything starts taking time, and they just spread themselves too thin, and they get discouraged by not getting any results because they're not focused in one area. So I think this is a very big mistake that gets many beginner bloggers discouraged. is that they're trying to do everything at once, and they don't see results, and they feel like they're spending so much time and nothing really happens. So the biggest mistake I would say to fix this mistake is it would be to pick one area where you feel yourself more confident and just focus on that area for at least 3 to 6 months until you see some kind of traction there. And then you can move to either another platform or start working on another area of your income, on another income stream.
Yeah, definitely. I think lots of people do. They sort of see these big bloggers and people who are really successful who have already spread themselves out quite a bit, and they've got a whole team able to manage that, and
exactly
they that themselves as one person, and they, like you said, stretched way too thin. Mm-hmm. Now I'd like to talk to you about how you drive traffic to your blog. So you use Pinterest. Now, we haven't had anyone who uses Pinterest really. So what makes that the best platform for you?
For me, it made it the best platform because I realized that in the first year, I would just need to wait too long for any traction on Google to get traffic from Google, because maybe beginners don't realize it, but Google has a so-called sandbox where any new website that doesn't have any domain authority, doesn't have enough content on the site, that new sites, they take longer to even start ranking for anything than let's say that you have an established blog and you wrote a new blog post. With that established blog, it will take you maybe a month or two to start seeing some results with that blog post. For a brand new blog, it can take up to a year for your blog post to start ranking anywhere. So the first year is really tough with Google traffic. And so I realized that a lot of bloggers, also because of reading those income reports of other bloggers, I realized that they were getting traffic specifically from Pinterest. And so I tried to see if it worked for me, because I was blogging about personal finance. I was completely lost in what kind of niche I wanted. And so I started in personal finance, and then I saw that bloggers on Pinterest were getting a lot of traffic from topics like food, like home decor, things like that. Things that are trending on Pinterest, they're not usually business related. They're something that people would read for leisure, for just like their hobbies, things like that, how to spend holidays with your family. And so my blog ended up having no niche at all, because I was testing constantly different topics that are popular on Pinterest. But on one side, it was ruining my niche, because the blog wasn't niched down at all. But at the same time, I started seeing a lot of traffic from Pinterest, and that allowed me to actually get accepted to Mediavine, because you need a lot of traffic. At that time, it was 25,000 monthly sessions, but now they even increased it to, about a year ago, they increased it to 50,000 sessions, the minimum requirement. So with Google, I wouldn't be able to get to that level of traffic in a year. I would be just still waiting, maybe would be getting like 1,000 maximum of visitors. So that's how I think Pinterest became such an important platform for me. And I saw the same happening to other bloggers. You cannot focus only on Pinterest forever, because at some point Pinterest also can have an update. It has more like a social platform, social media. It's in the middle between social media and search engine. And many of these social media platforms, they have this something called spam cleanups, when they block accounts, suspend accounts. And it just happens that on Pinterest, it can happen quite often. Like to my blog, it happened about twice in 4 years. Luckily, since I wasn't a real spammy website, it just took me about a week to get my account back, emailing back and forth with Pinterest support. But it can happen, so you cannot only rely on Pinterest as a traffic source, but it can be a really good boost for your traffic in the first year, for sure, when you're a beginner.
I think that's a great place. And like you said, it is an interesting platform because it's somewhere between a social media platform and a search engine, and it's based, but then you can click through to blog posts and articles that are more more?
Yeah. I didn't explain that how it actually works, because maybe some of our viewers don't even know how it works. So you create images. They have to be vertical because most of the people are on mobile devices, and they are pretty much images with usually with the title of what your content is about. And then if someone clicks on that image, they go straight to your site. They also have video pins, and with video pins, it's not so straightforward. You have to click a few more times to get to the point to visit your site. And they also added something called idea pins. That's the most recent format. That is like a copy of stories on Instagram. The disadvantage of idea pins that currently they don't allow you to link to your site, but they, as a new format, they get more impressions. So a lot of people use them as well to grow on Pinterest. So if you are a beginner, you can do all three formats and make a mix of them. And this, probably Pinterest can work in most of the niches, I would say, that are targeting women, because about 70% of the platform is female audience. So it works best for niches where women are the biggest audience. So I would say if you're selling some clothes fashion for men, it's not so great, or automobile, like something technical, very technical, that only men would. I don't want to say that women aren't interested in technical topics, but Pinterest is just not a place for that kind of very serious type of content.
Yeah.
For that type of content, I think that Google traffic works better.
Yeah, definitely. I think those are great insights into Pinterest, and it's an underutilized. Definitely works. I think it can keep working. And then I want to chat a bit more now about online courses. So what led you to becoming an online educator, that step from just ebooks into course creator?
It was part of my diversification of my income streams that I first started working one-on-one as a Pinterest expert with clients. But I soon realized that first of all, it wasn't easy to scale this type of work, because for every client, I would spend at least one working day, sometimes even like about one working day, because it's not just the hour that you spend together. It's also all the emails before the call, after the call, and also it's like I have to analyze their website, their niche, their Pinterest account before having that hour of consultation. So whatever price I would put for this service, it was always unscalable. It always depended on my personal time. Sorry. So I also noticed that most of these clients, they were so much in the beginner stages of their building their Pinterest account that a lot of questions were very basic, and almost they needed a step-by-step instruction on how to create an account, how to build up your boards on Pinterest. So I felt that it's something very basic that people shouldn't even pay for it they shouldn't use this hour of one-on-one consultation for the basic stuff. So I thought maybe I'll just record this as lessons, video lessons, and that was the idea of why I even started making the course. Why I started making a course specifically about Pinterest marketing. And so I quickly realized that it's very scalable compared to making one-on-one consultations. And that's how I found myself also being an online educator. It takes a lot of it's more scalable because you can sell as many copies as you wish, but it also involves a lot of support. I have a Facebook group for members of the course, and so they ask me questions through that Facebook group. But of course, it's not as much time as you take for each client if it's one-on-one.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's something that you can continue to build on, and then have like the second level of the course and keep working through that. Mm-hmm. And because it's something that is so common between lots of your clients, people who need to start at that beginner stage, I think, yeah, like you said, it is really scalable. And then you can offer your consultation services as the kind of height of it once you've got
as an upgrade. Yeah, I actually have, I would say it's like a second version of the second tier of the course, when they can buy the course with that service with online consultation, a one-on-one consultation together.
Yeah, I think that's a kind of great conversation. And now let's talk a little bit about the working from home model, because I think this, especially after 2020 and continuing through to now 2022, I think it's an interesting new space for people working. So, do you encourage people to start a side hustle and then break away from their 9 to 5? Or should they go all in? What do you think?
No. I already mentioned that even for me, it took at least a year when I was working full time and only in my free time, I was building the blog. I think that any type of business, online business, it takes time to get traction. And while this time is going on, you need some income source. And so if your circumstances are such that you have some kind of passive income or you have a partner, let's say, paying all the bills, then you can do it if you feel comfortable with it. But for me, I had to work that first year full time, and just in my spare hours, like on the working days, it would be 1 or 2 hours max in the evenings, and on weekends I could spend half of the weekends working on my blog in the first year. But it was also a lot of fun because I saw the goal. I saw it was my dream to quit my day job. So it was. I wouldn't say that it was a torture. It's also fun because you're always, as an online business owner, you also have to learn so many skills. So if you like learning new things, it's one of the ways how you can do it while making money.
Yeah.
So you're learning new things to make more money on a side, and yeah, so I would say that it's great to work from home. It did work out absolutely fantastic in my case because I also had my baby on like 2 years in my blogging, and then I had a baby, and so I would have to go back to work if I was working in a corporate world just 3 months after having a baby. So it would be such a harsh separation for me. But I had a chance to work from home. But actually, it also happened during this pandemic, so a lot of people were working from home anyway. But it's still, I think it's different when you're working from home for yourself rather than working in a corporate. And I always felt that corporate world it has some kind of glass ceiling for me. So. Here I have the only glass ceiling is, like, I would say that my capability to delegate. That's what I'm struggling with, because I've been doing everything or most of the things on my own, and I have a hard time finding someone I can trust to delegate most of the tasks, or at least half of the work that I'm doing myself.
Yeah. But it's something to look
There is
for.
a place.
Yeah, if you scale and keep growing, is to find someone that you do trust and then
yeah.
And now my last big question for you is about social media. So how do you use social media to boost your online presence? We've spoken a little bit about how you've used Pinterest, so let's talk a bit more now about YouTube and how you're using it.
Well, actually, I don't even consider YouTube as much as a social media as well. Like I said, Pinterest, and now we can say that YouTube is pretty much similar to Pinterest in the sense that it's also a social media, but it's even more a search engine, at least for me, because when I use YouTube, it's most of the times I'm looking for information actively. I also go to YouTube and just browse, let's say mindlessly, and whatever YouTube suggests. But usually YouTube, even whatever suggestions are there based on my interests, on topics that I usually like to watch there. So, and Pinterest works in a sense similar to this. And YouTube has been a really great platform for me to build the digital courses part of my business. I don't get a lot of traffic to my general content on the site from YouTube, but I get a lot of traffic to everything that's related to blogging, to Pinterest, because that's the topic of my YouTube channel. And I found that YouTube helps you establish yourself as an expert more so than your blog, and it helps you with conversions, I believe, in terms of selling the course, because people, when they saw you on a video on the channel, they trust you more than even if they read 10 of your blog posts, they still didn't have that interaction with you as a person. They haven't heard your voice, haven't seen you. With YouTube, usually it's enough to watch one or two videos, and they feel that instant connection or they don't. That's how it works on YouTube. With blog, they don't know who's behind this text. It could be even, on big sites, the owners don't even write that. Big bloggers who have teams, they don't even write their content. So people don't trust that much when they're just reading a blog post compared to video. So YouTube helped a lot with this part of my business. And I find it also interesting to grow on that platform, because it's definitely different type of interaction with your audience. A lot of people on YouTube use their real profiles with photos. So if someone comments on your blog post, it's usually more incognito format. You don't know who's behind that. On YouTube, you can click through their profile and you know that it's a real person. There's also a lot of bots and a lot of, but I can tell when it's a real person and when it's not. So I found that answering in the comment section on my YouTube channel also helped me build this trust with the audience, because they see that I bothered to reply to their questions for free on my channel. So they trust me that inside my paid course, I'll also pay attention to their questions.
I think that's great. And it's a lovely way to humanize both you and your audience, and to foster that really important connection, which I think makes a huge difference, especially as a course creator, because you're providing more than just a product that they take away and they're gone. It's something where they continue to build a relationship with you. Now, I have two short questions. My first one is, what piece of advice would you give to your 18-year-old self looking back?
I was very naive in terms of I didn't know what. I think that young people are in our times, they spend more time watching YouTube videos about finances. They have a lot of information about building your own business. That's what I was missing totally. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So it took me so many years working in the corporate world without having any understanding how I could even build my own business. And so if I was young now, I would focus on, no, it's not necessary that you have to instantly start working for yourself, like start building that business, but at least learning more about it, watching these financial YouTube channels, understanding about how to build the business, how to start investing your money. All these things, they're important to learn, at least when you're younger. And maybe the part of investing now that I'm 30, almost 37 this year, I start feeling that I missed that at least a decade of my life where I could save some money and start investing, not just save it in a bank. I could start investing, because it became so popular in the last few years, the whole investment topic. And I had no idea, absolutely nothing, knew nothing about it. And now I realize that people who started investing earlier, they already have some portfolio that is working for them passively.
Yeah, brilliant.
So, I think that new generations nowadays, they have more information available to them to learn all of these things. So I would suggest that I did that earlier for myself.
Okay, and then my last question for you before we run out of time is, where can our listeners find you?
My username everywhere is Anastasia Blogger. So if you just Google Anastasia Blogger altogether, you can find me at my YouTube channel, or you just find my site, anastasiablogger.com.
Perfect. Thank you, Anastasia. Thank you so much for joining me and for giving me your time. And thank you to our listeners today. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this on a podcasting app, subscribe to the Systeme podcast so that you never miss an episode. Systeme.io is a digital marketing software platform packed with all the tools you need to grow your online business.